Now, should I sell at the farmers markets or should I run a CSA? Now, you might be asking yourself the same question as you plan out your next season. So in this video, we're going to go over my top 3 reasons why you may just choose one over the other. Welcome. If this is your first time to our channel, my name's Cody and I run Simplistic Farms here in West Michigan. Now, I've gone down both of these roads over the last couple of years, so I just want to share a little bit of insight that I might have and point out a few things that you might want to consider before jumping in head first one way or the other. So maybe you've started growing veggies and you're growing way more than you can eat, or maybe you're a seasoned grower or a market gardener and small-scale farmer like myself and are looking to expand the business side of things and are just a little bit unsure which route you want to take. So let's talk about what I feel are my top 3 advantages and disadvantages to selling at the farmers markets and to running a CSA. So let's talk about the farmers markets first. Now, the number one negative, in my opinion, to doing the farmers markets is the inconsistent income. You never know from week to week just what you're going to make. Some weeks could be great, and next week, not so much. So that's probably my number one negative when it comes to doing the farmers markets. Now, if you're just starting out and are just getting rid of excess vegetables, that may not be a big deal. So for me, that would be number one. So number 2 would be you never really know how much you need to grow based on how much you're going to sell. Because you don't know how much you're going to sell from week to week, it kind of makes crop planning and your weekly harvest a little bit of a crapshoot. So that would be number 2 for me, and those 1 and 2 go right hand in hand. Number 3 is kind of a biggie for me. When you're doing farmers markets, you are committed to that farmers market every week, and you have to be there every week. Over the course of the season, you'll have customers that are expecting you to be there. Not to mention the market manager and the rest of the vendors are expecting you to be there as well. So that would be my number 3, is that you have to give up at least 1 day, if not 2 days, every weekend throughout the entire summer, which is the best part of the year. So for me, that's kind of a negative, and that would be number 3. All right, let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about the advantages and benefits to selling at the farmers market. Now, the first one is it gives you an opportunity to leave the farm. Sometimes during the heat of the season, you kind of feel like you're on your own little island there, which isn't always a great thing. So selling at the farmers market every week does give you a reason to have to get off the farm, to have to interact, but it's actually a great thing. You end up getting the regulars, and you get to do a lot of people watching, and I really enjoy the sense of community with the other farmers while we're there every week. So good time to catch up with friends, make new ones. That would be my number 1 positive to doing farmers markets for sure. Number 2 is one you might not think of often, but it's actually brand awareness and the opportunity to market to your local community. This is especially important if you're a new farmer or new market gardener trying to get your name out, trying to build a brand. This is a great way to do it because you get to interact with the people in the community that are going to be interested in what you have to offer. So farmers markets are a great way to do that. And then the number 3 benefit, in my opinion, to selling at the farmers market is you don't have the weekly production commitment. Meaning, whatever's ready to harvest that week, you can bring it to the farmers market and try to sell it. So you aren't bound by needing a specific amount of that variety. You can just bring whatever you got. So that's the number 3 advantage, in my opinion, especially if you're really just trying to get things dialed in, see what you can grow, how much of it you can grow really well. The farmers markets are a great way to sell that produce. So those would be my top 3 advantages and disadvantages to selling at the farmers market. But I do think they're probably one of the very best ways to sell your produce and get your name out there if you're a new farmer, a new market gardener. You can kind of get a feel for the market that you're in and get your name out there. All right, let's talk about running a CSA. And what is a CSA? CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And what it basically is a weekly veggie box subscription. So they pay at the beginning of the season a fixed amount, and every single week, however many weeks you're running it for, say 15 weeks, they would get a box full of vegetables every single week, either delivered or picked up. But let's talk about the negatives. Now, the first negative, opposed to doing a farmer's market, is that you need to be much more precise in your crop planting. You need to plan for succession planting, meaning planting throughout the season, every week or every other week, so that you have a wide variety of veggies coming out every single week and different veggies every week. So they're getting between 6 and 10 different vegetables in their box every week, and every week they need to be different than the week before. So you need to mix it up a little bit. So therefore you have to have different varieties ready to harvest every week. So I would say much more precise crop planning would be the number one negative to running a CSA opposed to selling at the farmers markets. Now, number two kind of goes along with that is there's quite a few more organizational tasks when it comes to running a CSA, from setting up your payment plans for the memberships or subscriptions or shares, whatever you're calling them. You need to be able to take payments somehow. We did all of ours online, so we had to set up all of that. You need to be able to organize and run a delivery route and schedule for each of your CSA customers, 1 or 2 days a week. We did 2 days a week this past season, and that worked pretty well. But there are a lot more organizational tasks involved when it comes to running the CSA for sure. So that would probably be my number two negative or downside to running the CSA. So number three would be the weight of the commitment. X amount of boxes for 15 weeks. Trying to exceed the expectations of the CSA members. And the key is really to not sell more shares than you can fulfill based on the amount of land you're growing on. And that comes into play with planning, but that's really probably the key to that one. How many beds do you have to grow on? How much food can you produce on each of those beds? What if there's crop loss due to weather, due to pests, due to wildlife? All these things are things that weigh on your shoulders a little bit when it comes to the obligation of the fulfillment of the 15 weeks. And the weight of that obligation will be there until you deliver that last box to the last customer on week 15. But let's talk about the good stuff. Now, the number one positive, in my opinion, and probably the number one reason why most farmers go with a CSA, is that you're pre-selling all of your vegetables, or at least a set amount that you want to sell. So you know exactly how much income that part of your farm is going to produce for you. I know that if I sell, say, 20 shares at $300 a share, that's going to produce $6,000 of capital at the beginning of the season before I've even started a seed, where typically you would have to buy all your supplies, do all the work, plant it, grow it, harvest it, and then hope you get paid at the farmer's market, for instance. So that would be my number one is pre-selling. It allows the farmer capital to pay for a seed, to pay for his compost, to pay for some labor to help get it all done, and to grow beautiful vegetables without the stress of that part of it right off the get-go in the beginning of the season. And it's really a win-win for the farmer and their customer. The farmer gets some starting capital for the season, and the customer is pretty well guaranteed, unless there's a major catastrophe, that they're going to get fresh veggies every week for 15 weeks throughout the growing season. So that would be my number one positive, and really a big reason why we really enjoy running a CSA. Now, number two, because you have everything pre-sold, you know every single week exactly how much you need to harvest. So it really cuts down on waste and makes crop planning in your weekly harvest list a lot simpler from the standpoint of knowing exactly how much you need to grow and how much you need to harvest every single week based on the number of boxes you need to fill and deliver. Number three, positive to running a CSA, is you don't have to give up every weekend of the summer. You get your weekends back. You don't have to give up every Saturday morning all summer long to go to the farmer's market. It is nice to do farmer's markets, but it's also nice not to have to. So which is my favorite model, farmer's market or the CSA? I would say they both definitely have their place, but for me, I'd have to go with the CSA. We ran a CSA this past year and I really enjoyed it. I was able to 4x our farm income by switching over to a CSA model and not solely relying on the farmers markets. Now, like I said, they're both great models. CSA just works well for my particular situation and my particular location. Now, if I had a farmer's market within a reasonable distance that I knew I could make a couple $1,000s a weekend, it might be a different scenario. But we don't have that here. So for me, the CSA model works great. And the benefits definitely outweigh the negatives, in my opinion. Now, we still enjoy doing a few farmers markets throughout the season and seeing all the friendly faces, seeing our friends, and feeling the community with the other farmers. We still aren't writing that off completely. So make sure you drop a comment below and say hi. Let us know what your experiences have been with doing farmers markets or running a CSA. We always like to hear how things are going for other farm and garden friends. So thanks for joining me. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button on the way out, and we'll see you on the next one.